Hi everyone, I am reading P.A.W.S. by Debbie Manber, Kupfer, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. Vienna, October 2nd, 1941. Today was Celia's 10th birthday. This was not how she imagined celebrating it. She was with her family, her mama, Miriam, her papa, David, her elder brother, Isel, and her baby sister, Sarah. They were huddled together in the back room of their tiny two-room apartment in Gross Spielgasse in the dark, barely breathing. Outside the building, the boot steps got nearer and nearer. Celia heard shouting, screaming, gunshots. She crouched down even closer to the ground, wishing that somehow they could all melt away into the shadows. Celia clutched her cat, Max, tightly in her arms, feeling his warmth, his soft, tabby fur close to her skin, willing him to stay quiet. Her mama cradled little Sarah at her breast, nursing her so she would not cry out. Outside, the pounding footsteps were getting closer, closer. Judith, Judith, harass, harass, schnell, schnell. How they were at the door of the neighbors, the Westerns. She heard crying and a single gunshot. Miriam beckoned to her. Celia, min Katzel, come here, she whispered. I have something for you. For your birthday. Celia approached Miriam cautiously, still clutching Max to her. What is it, Mama? She asked, gazing into Miriam's blue eyes. She studied her prematurely wrinkled face, memorizing every crease. Mama, my mama, she thought. Still holding baby Sarah with her left hand, Miriam reached around the back of her neck with her right and unclasped the chain that she always wore beneath her clothes, close to her heart. It was a silver chain with a cat charm on it. Take this, Celia, min Katzel. Wear it always and remember I love you, ich liebe dich. I love you, Mama, Celia whispered, as she fastened the chain around her neck, just as the doors burst open. 6 Gestapo soldiers rushed into their home. Judith, harass, harass, schnell, schnell. Celia watched as her family was herded out of the door. Mama! Celia woke up with a start. She must have fallen asleep. She didn't sleep much anymore, or maybe she slept all the time. Little cat naps throughout the day and night. She didn't really know. These days, it was sometimes hard to separate the dreams from the reality. Celia gazed at the silver chain around her neck, the cat charm always with her for so many years. She took it in her hand, closed her eyes, and concentrated. No, not now, not ever again, she thought. I'm so tired. I miss Max, though it's been years since he passed away. Maybe I'll see him again soon. She watched Miri sleeping by her side. Now she thought it has to be now or it will be too late. Miri, Liebchen, wake up, now, min Katzel. Oh, Mama, is it morning already? My birthday? No, Miri, but I need to give you your present now. Celia unclasped the chain from her neck, the chain that had been there for 60 years. Time to pass it on now, she thought. It was hard to unfasten. Her fingers were swollen from arthritis. I should not have had that milk last night, she thought. I know it makes me swell up, but still, what's a little milk? Eventually, she managed to unfasten the chain and fasten it around Miri's neck. Take this, Miri, and wear it always. Thank you, oh Mama. It's a beautiful cat. Now go back to sleep, Katzel. I love you, Miri. Ich liebe dich. I love you too, oh Mama, Miri answered sleepily. Celia watched Miri as she quickly fell back into slumber. Despite all the stories I shared with you, she thought, there's so much I never told you, Miri. So much you'll have to discover for yourself. Be brave, min Katzel. Chapter 1. October 2nd, 2001. Today was Miri's birthday. She was 10 years old. She had a strange dream last night. She dreamed about a cat with sleek gray fur and green eyes. She dreamed it talked to her and gave her a present. As Miri woke up, she felt something warm beneath her cotton nightshirt. She looked down and saw that she was wearing a Mama's cat charm chain, the one that she always wore close to her heart. Then she remembered. Oh, Mama woke her up in the middle of the night and gave her this for her birthday. Why did she do that in the night? It seemed so strange. Why not wait until morning? Oh, Mama, wake up. It's morning now. Why is she not waking up? Oh, Mama, wake up, wake up. You have to wake up. It's my birthday. And oh, Mama, it's your birthday too, remember? We always celebrate together. We're going to make sponge cakes together. Yours in the large Kugelhopf mold, mine in the little cake pan. We're going to decorate them with green icing and Jenny is going to come over and sing happy birthday. Oh, Mama, "Oh, Mama, please wake up." But Celia could not wake up. Their cats, Kitty and Susie, jumped onto the bed, meowing for breakfast. They walked onto a Mama's pillow, nudging her with their paws. Then Susie jumped down and ran out through the cat door, wailing so loudly that Mary was sure now the whole neighborhood was awake. Tears formed in Mary's eyes, and once she started crying, it was impossible to stop. She could not take her eyes off of her "Oh, Mama," so still. She was the only family Mary had ever known. Mary's mother, Nora, ran away from home when she was just 15 years old. For months, Celia searched for her daughter, but she seemed to have disappeared without a trace. It wasn't until 4 years later that Nora reappeared. It was late, one cool October night, when Celia heard an urgent knock at her door. She had been having difficulty sleeping that night, as there was a full moon shining through the flimsy curtains in her bedroom. Celia grabbed her tattered robe and went to the door, wondering who could possibly be there that late at night. Standing on the doorstep was Nora. She had a wild, scared look in her eyes as she handed her mother a tiny bundle wrapped in a sky-blue shawl. Celia begged her daughter to stay, but Nora muttered nervously that she couldn't and quickly walked back down the steps and out into the night. The newborn looked up at Celia with eyes she remembered from so long ago. Beautiful blue eyes like those of her mother Miriam. "Mary," she whispered, "my own little kitten named Katzel." They never heard from Nora again. Not even a postcard. It didn't matter, though, as Mary loved living with her Mama. They lived in an attic apartment of an old building in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It was the same building her Mama had lived in since she first arrived in America in the 1940s. She came on a ship from Europe with her childhood friend Max, and later they married and had 2 children. Mary's uncle David, who moved away before she was born, and her mother Nora. Mary never knew her old Papa Max. He had died before she was born, but everyone who talked about him said he had been a good, hard-working man. He never learned English properly and so could only do menial jobs. He was proud when he landed a job at the street's matzo factory on Rivington Street. He stayed in that job for 30 years, never missing a day's work. He was known as an honest man who always provided for his family and never took any charity even when times were tough. And often times were very tough. Yet Celia was able to take the little bit of money that Max brought home and work magic in the marketplace and in her kitchen. With a few basic ingredients, Celia fed her family with wonderfully fragrant soups and stews whose delicious smells would waft down into the street below. One floor down in their building lived Mary's best friend, Jenny. They did everything together. They walked to and from school each day, played jump rope and hopscotch in the street after school with the other kids, and shared all their secrets in the way only best friends could. Sometimes Jenny would come and stay at Mary's place at night. Oh, Mama would make the girls treats, such as Viennese cakes and cookies filled with lots of butter and eggs, and Mary's favorite, chocolate. On special occasions, Celia would make a sacher-torte, so rich that you really should only eat a few forkfuls at a time. But of course, the girls always ate a lot more than that, eating until they gave themselves bellyaches. Oh, Mama had been teaching Mary to bake too, and she even bought Mary her own set of miniature cake pans and kitchen utensils. Together they would measure, sift, mix, blend, and bake. In the long, cold winter months, when their old building was drafty and damp, they would fill it with warmth and wonderful aromas of strudels and tortes. And always there were cats, large and small, long-haired, short-haired, tabby, ginger, Siamese. Celia seemed to be a magnet for cats. They congregated outside their building, and Celia would bring them some scraps of fish or a saucer of milk. Often, she would sit on the steps and talk to them. At those times, Mary would watch her Oh, Mama. There was a small brown cat with yellow eyes that was particularly fond of Celia's attention. Sometimes this cat would turn and look directly at Mary, like she understood something that Mary could not grasp. As Mary watched Celia interact with the cats, she often imagined that her Oh, Mama could really communicate with them, could understand their innermost secrets and feline mysteries. But only 2 cats were actually permitted inside their attic apartment. Their 2 house cats, Kitty and Susie, had lived with them for as long as Mary could remember. Kitty was a large, cantankerous tabby who would often express herself with her claws. Susie, a black and white long-haired cat, was much calmer and would be content some evenings to sit the whole night on Mary's lap, while she read the books she borrowed from the local public library. Mary loved to read and was friendly with the librarian at Tompkins Square Library, who would occasionally allow Mary to borrow as many as a dozen books at a time. She had been known to stay up the whole night reading, and then the next day at school fall asleep in class and dream about the fantasy worlds from her books, until, that is, she was really awoken by an angry teacher. Mary's favorite book was Lewis Carroll's Alice Adventures in Wonderland. It was one of the few books that they actually owned, along with a prayer book and a big cookbook. She read her battered copy over and over, and sometimes she would write her own Alice stories, where along with her teddy bear, Brownie, she would enter Wonderland and meet the Cheshire Cat, have tea with the Mad Hatter, or even play croquet with the Queen of Hearts. On rainy days, when they couldn't go out and play in the street, Jenny and Mary would read their library books out loud to one another and sometimes act the stories out, though they often argued about who should take the part of the heroine and who should be the villain. Sometimes they invented their own elaborate fantasy worlds. One of their favorite games was Fairies, which they played on the steps of their building. Each step would represent a different part of the fairyland, where they would gain special powers and magical possessions. Maybe there would be a dragon to vanquish or a giant to befriend. They would play until Jenny's parents called her home in for dinner, and then Mary would walk up the steps to her mama. Chapter 2. For the next 24 hours, Mary cried. During that time, an ambulance came and took away her mama. She didn't know who called for it. All she could do was cry. After they took Celia away, Mary just sat there, tears running down her cheeks. Susie returned and jumped on her lap, trying to comfort her, trying to pretend it was okay. But of course, it was not okay. Kitty knew better. She prowled the apartment, pacing from room to room, yelling like a tormented banshee. Hours later, Mary heard a key turn in the lock, and in through the door walked a woman she had never seen before. She was of medium height and had bleached blonde hair with dark roots showing. She was dressed in a tailored navy business suit, topped with a leopard fur jacket, and wore heavy makeup, including bright red lipstick and matching manicured claws. When she came closer, Mary could smell her perfume, which was strong and overpowering, so much that it made her gag. The strange woman regarded Mary with a look of distaste. "Hello, Miriam," she said sternly. "I'm your Aunt Cynthia. You're going to come with me." Mary didn't say anything. She just kept crying. Now, Cynthia said. "You're far too big for that. Go pack yourself a bag. We have a flight to catch." She gazed around the messy apartment with a look of disgust on her face. Mary went into the bedroom she had shared with Celia. She took a small suitcase out from under the bed. In it, she stuffed a few clothes, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, her notebooks and pencils, and her old stuffed bear, Brownie. On the dresser was an old sepia picture of her Mama and Papa from their wedding day. Mary had often gazed at this picture, wondering at how handsome her Papa Max had been and how beautiful the young Celia appeared. She took the picture and carefully placed it in her suitcase. "Hurry up, Miriam," shouted Cynthia impatiently. "We haven't got all day. Time to go." Mary closed her suitcase and carried it back into the living room, where her aunt was waiting. But, Mary began. "What about Kitty and Susie?" "Who?" "Our cats. They have to come with." "No, they do not. I'm definitely not having any mangy cats in my house." And then, before Mary had time to protest, Cynthia opened the front door and took a broom. Shoo! Shoo! Get out of here!" she shouted at the terrified cats. Kitty and Susie ran out of the apartment, down the stairs, and out into the street. More tears flowed from Mary's eyes, gushing in unstoppable torrents. She felt as if everything she ever cared about was being torn from her. "Where are we going?" Mary asked between sobs. "Somewhere a lot nicer than this rat hole," Cynthia answered impatiently. "Come on, we're going to be late for the plane." Mary wordlessly followed Cynthia out of the door of their apartment and down the steps past Jenny's door. The tears kept flowing down her cheeks. What would happen to Kitty and Susie alone in the streets? Where was this woman taking her? Throughout the next day and night, Mary kept crying. She cried while she was taken in a taxi to the airport. She cried as they waited in some fancy seats in an executive lounge at LaGuardia. She cried as they boarded the plane for her very first flight. She felt that her eyes would never dry again. The whole time, Aunt Cynthia looked at her with distaste and told her to shh, but Mary couldn't shush. There was a gaping hole inside her where Omama used to be, and now she was being pulled away from the only home she'd ever known by a relative she hadn't even known she had before today. Mary had never had a chance to say goodbye to Jenny. Thanks.